the rivers begin? Rivers start as tiny stems. Some stems start where springs bubble out of the ground.
Out of the ground.
Others form on mountains when the tips of icy glaciers begin to melt, and some trickles out of lakes.
Out of lake.
Rain falls on the hills and sinks into the ground.
Number 2.
Water trickles up out of a spring.
Trickles up
Yeah,
out of a spring.
the stream joins others and becomes a
fast flowing river.
The river reaches the flatter land. It gets wider and flows more slowly.
Yeah. Why do old rivers flow so slowly?
At the bottom of a hill,
At the bottom of the hill,
becomes
flatter.
slowing the river down. Instead of rushing downhill in a
Straight line.
the river flows in big bends called
Meander. Okay. Meander. So now, trickle out of a lake. What does that mean?
It means flows slowly.
Water flows slowly in a thin stream from the lake, like a small beginning of a river. One more time. Trickle out of a lake. What does that mean?
It means
Water flows slowly in a thin stream from the lake, like a small beginning of a river. What about water trickles up out of a spring means?
It means water trickles.
The water slowly rises from underground to the natural opening. Spring
and
begins to flow gently. One more time. Water trickle up out of spring. What does that mean? It means that water slowly rises, okay, from underground through natural opening that is called spring and begins to flow gently. What about this one? The river reaches flatter land.
It gets wider and flows more slowly.
Means that
the river moves into areas where the ground is not steep. The water spread out more. The speed of the flow
decrease. When do you say decrease? Slow down. Go down, okay? Go down. And okay, question number 1. Where do rivers usually begin? Answer me.
Guess what?
Rivers often begin
as
small streams, which may come from springs, melting glaciers, or lake. One more time. Where do rivers usually begin?
Rivers often begin as small streams, which may come from springs, melting glaciers, or lakes.
What is a glacier and how does it help form rivers? What is a glacier? A glacier is a huge river of ice that moves slowly downhill and melt to form streams that can become rivers. One more time. What is glacier and how does it help from rivers? Glacier is a huge river of ice that moves slowly downhill and melt to form streams and that can become rivers. How do springs contribute to the formation of river? This one.
Springs are places where groundwater comes to the surface, starting small stems that can grow into rivers.
One more time. How do springs contribute to formation of rivers? Springs are places where groundwater comes to the surface, starting small stream that can grow into rivers. Hey, what happens when a river reaches flatter land?
As rivers
reach flatter land,
they become wider and slower,
flowing in curves
called
meander. Okay. Why do rivers flow more quickly on mountain?
Rivers flow faster on mountains because the land is steeper, causing water to rush downhill.
Okay? Rush. When you say rush, it means so in a hurry,
Yeah.
How does rainfall help create rivers?
Rainwater
Rainwater sinks
into the ground and comes up the springs, eventually forming streams that grow into rivers.
Okay, what about number 1? Where do rivers usually begin?
They usually begin from
a small stream, which may come from springs, melting glaciers, or lakes. What is a glacier and how does it help form rivers? Glacier is a huge river of ice that moves slowly downhill and melt to form streams that can become rivers. How do springs contribute to the formation of rivers? Springs are places where groundwater comes to the surface, starting small streams that can grow into rivers. What happens when a river reaches the flatter land? As rivers reach flatter land, they become wider and slower, flowing in curves called meander. Why do rivers flow more quickly on mountain? Rivers flow faster on mountain because the land is deeper, okay? Causing water to rush downhill. How does rainfall help create rivers? Rainwater sinks into ground, comes up through springs, eventually forming streams that grow into rivers. Okay?
Yeah.
That's it.